Right. So, as a coming from a Christian household, how difficult is it to teach at a public school without crossing like the ground of separation of church and state?
So I actually just taught a lesson on this the other day. I talked earlier about the colonies, and I talked about the Puritans and the Pilgrims as they came over. Um, that their government and their laws had church and state combined rather than separated. And I used an analogy. I said I talked about the Scarlet Letter, which of course none of them had read because they're eighth graders. But I did talk about. I said, think about this. I said, is it illegal to cheat on your spouse? And no. First of all, they didn't know what a spouse was, so I had to explain that to them. But they said, no. And I said, but is it morally wrong to cheat on your spouse? And they said, well, yeah. And I said, that's what it was like if you were in the Puritan religion. I mean, it was illegal. It was a law, to not cheat on your spouse. So I talked about how that's separated today. It might be morally wrong, but it's not going to be wrong in the eyes of the law because church and state are separated. Um, and even as a Christian, I am not going to shy away from being a Christian. I'll tell them I'm a Christian. Um, I believe in Christ, and I tell them, even what church I go to, it's fine. But I don't sit up there and try to push my views on them because I know that, again, separation of church and state is important, and it's not my job to push my views on them, but I think it's okay for me to tell them what I believe.
Right. So, um, while you're teaching, how important is it to establish a strong communication between not only you and the students, but the parents and the faculty?
So, one of the nice things about teaching now and like this technology, um, it's so cool because I put in my grades and they can instantly see them. Their parents can instantly see them, and the school I work at has, at least for junior high and high school, it's one-to-one Chromebook per student. So they have a Chromebook. Um, I put the grades on, and it's instantaneous. They can see their grades. So I think it's easier for the parents to check and communicate with the teacher and to know what's going on. However, it doesn't happen that way. I'll get an email or phone call sometime. Why is my child failing? And I say, they haven't turned anything in for weeks, and I sent you an email 2 weeks ago. So just because the technology is available doesn't mean that it's being used. And I think that's one thing that we're lacking. Is like we're so used to this technology that we're not taking advantage of it. Um, you should know. You should check your child's grades. I mean, every Friday or every Monday, something. You should know if they're falling behind, and you can come communicate with me that easily. But I've made a few phone calls here and there for students that are really falling behind, but generally, also sports comes into play with that. I mean, if they're ineligible, coaches like, hey, why aren't they playing? It's like, they haven't turned stuff in for a couple of weeks, and so I think that's technology is one of the ways that you can communicate with parents, with staff, with students. It's just always available, and I use Google Classroom a lot. So as I'm typing, they can see what I'm typing, and they can share things with me on Google Classroom, like just documents. And I can watch them type. So it's just neat to be able to share in this technology age and to see everything that they're doing.
Hmm, nice. So, continuing off of communication, while you're teaching, what are some nonverbal communications that you may do throughout your day?
Um, One nonverbal thing um, that I try to do every day, I know this sounds really weird, is I try to look professional. I think it's important to the students um, to look professional, especially as a male, because there's not a lot of males in this profession. So I come in and I try to look the part of a teacher, and that might sound weird to other people, but I feel like if you don't look the part, then they're not going to believe that you are the part. So and that also exuberates confidence up there. If you look the part, you're confident that you are the part, because being a teacher is kind of like being an actor. I mean, you're up there, you're playing a different part every day, depending if I'm teaching geography or U.S. history or grammar. I have to look and act the part even not communicating, like I want them to see like he's business, like he's serious. And sometimes when someone's doing something wrong, I can just look at him and so it's just one of those things. You just kind of get a feel for that kind of stuff.
All right. And lastly, to finish off communication and our questions for this evening, how important is listening to your students? Um, what aspect does listening come into the classroom?
So I think listening is extremely important. I think enough teachers don't listen to their students when it comes to particularly formative assessment. Um, so if I'm giving this formative assessment and my students fail, and this happened once, I gave a test, the average test score is a 57%. I could blame that on the students, but that's my fault. I didn't do a good enough job. So I had to say, hey guys, this is how we presented it this time. Um, what didn't work for you? Why did you not get this material? Was it me lecturing? Was it you working in your groups? Was it taking? Was it not studying your vocab? And then I got some interesting feedback. Well, when we were working in our groups, we weren't really reading the whole thing, and it's like, oh, so then I've changed the aspect of the group. So instead now they have to read it aloud to each other rather than read it and talk about it. So they have to read the stuff out loud to make sure they're getting all the information. Um, and then I listened to them when it came to the essays. Like they said, we really had trouble writing the essays. Even though you told us what the essays were going to be, we didn't know how to structure them. And I said, perfect. Let's talk about structuring an essay. So we went through, we learned how to structure an essay. Second test scores came around and they were 20% higher average test score. So am I a better teacher? No, but I listened to them and I saw that there was a problem with me that I had to change by listening to my students.
Good. So yeah, thank you for coming and helping me with this assignment, and hope you continue to do well in your classroom.
Thanks.
Yep.